And in this clip, I want to show you the moment a minister grabs out evidence and shows that Keir Starmer is in fact lying.
If this is the route you wish to take, you should give us the name of the person you would like to appoint, and we will develop a plan for them to acquire the necessary security clearances and do due diligence on any potential conflicts of interest or other issues of which you should be aware before confirming your choice.
Labour MPs know that the Prime Minister has let the country down, he's let Parliament down, and he's also let the Labour Party down.
In Parliament, an MP has just torn apart Starmer's story about Peter Mandelson's appointment with undeniable proof, and the truth is damning. Starmer's lies about the entire process have been exposed, revealing that he misled the public and misrepresented the facts. It's a catastrophic failure of leadership, with Starmer's credibility shattered as the man who promised transparency now drowns in his own web of deceit.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has twice rebuffed first the Leader of the Opposition, then the leader of the Liberal Democrats, when they said that the then Cabinet Secretary's advice to the Prime Minister was to get the clearance before the announcement.
A minister stood up, held a document in the air, and systematically destroyed Keir Starmer's carefully constructed story about one of the most controversial political appointments in modern British history. This was cold, documented, irrefutable proof that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom looked Parliament in the face and lied.
That when he sought to realise his ambition to become leader of the Labour Party, with very little base within the party, he became dependent on McSweeney and Mandelson and Labour together to organise, fund his election. And the message, the unspoken message to civil servants was, what Mandelson wants, Mandelson gets.
The appointment of Peter Mandelson as British ambassador to the United States was already raising eyebrows before any of this came out. Mandelson carries more political baggage than a first-class airport lounge. His history, his connections, his past controversies should have triggered every alarm bell inside the vetting system. And here is the part that makes this story so explosive. Those alarm bells did go off. The system worked exactly as it was designed to work. The warnings were issued, the advice was given. The Prime Minister simply chose to ignore all of it and push the appointment through anyway.
So I'm going to read in one sentence from a document entitled Options for HMA Washington from the Cabinet Secretary of the day to him personally.
The document that brought Starmer's story crashing down was titled Options for HMA Washington. This was not a leaked memo from a disgruntled employee. This was official government advice, prepared by senior officials, addressed directly to the Prime Minister. Its language was unambiguous. Security clearance must be obtained before the appointment is made. Not after, not during, before. There was no gray area, no room for creative interpretation, no loophole that a clever lawyer could squeeze through. The instruction was clear, the advice was formal, and the Prime Minister ignored every word of it.
Peter Mandelson failed the vetting process for his job as US ambassador. The Foreign Office is being blamed for that, but actually, does the buck stop with the Prime Minister? Kemi Badenoch already blasting out that the Prime Minister Keir Starmer misled Parliament when he said on record that Peter Mandelson had passed that vetting.
When Starmer defended himself in Parliament, he claimed the usual process was followed. Let that sink in. He wants you to believe that the usual process for appointing an ambassador involves skipping security clearance. He wants you to believe that the Cabinet Secretary's written advice means nothing, and that official government documents don't matter in how decisions are made. Starmer stood there, expecting everyone to just nod along. But that document in the minister's hand made his entire argument impossible to swallow.
The Prime Minister has gone on at considerable length about process and procedure. But ordinary people don't really care about process and procedure. They want transparency, and they want to know that they can have confidence in the words of elected politicians, like all of us in this chamber.
Now let's talk about Sir Oliver Robbins, the civil servant who had the guts to flag the risks. He did his job, raised the alarms, and pointed out the dangers. What happened next? He was sacked. Not quietly shuffled out, not thanked for his service. He was thrown under the bus the moment his professionalism got in the way of political expediency. His emotional testimony in Parliament revealed everything you need to know about this government. When the truth became inconvenient, they cut him loose.
You know, we're told by Ollie Robbins, in fact, that the vetting service leant towards denial, but there's no boxes. The boxes released by number 10, the red boxes with the ticks, he's never seen them. Are these boxes, where have they come from? Why is number 10 saying this is how you vet somebody when it's not even recognised by the guy in charge of the Foreign Office? Huge questions there. Are they invented? What are these boxes? It gets worse.
The pressure on the Foreign Office to approve Mandelson was nothing short of extraordinary. Number 10 wanted him in, and they wanted it fast. Then these mysterious vetting boxes appear out of nowhere, never seen by Robbins or anyone in the Foreign Office responsible for security checks. No one can explain where they came from or who authorized them. In any functioning government, that alone would demand an immediate investigation. Instead, the response was to sack the man asking the questions.
This is preposterous. He is taking the public for fools. We know that number 10 was told that Mandelson had failed his vetting because journalists told them in September last year.
Here's where it gets truly disturbing. The vetting process is meant to protect national security from political interference. An ambassador to Washington isn't just a diplomat. They're a key player in intelligence sharing, handling classified briefings that impact national defense. The process exists to ensure that security and political loyalty are kept separate. But this government did the unthinkable. They allowed political loyalty to steamroll over the very safeguards designed to protect the country.
It is why, when Sir Chris Wolmold looked at it in September, he addressed the question by reference back to Simon Case's letter, because I wanted to know the process that had been followed was the right process. And that is what Sir Chris Wolmold looked at. He looked at it expressly by reference to the Simon Case letter that has just been read out and assured me that the right process was followed when he reviewed it.
Mr. Speaker, anybody...
Starmer's defenders attempted to point to a later review conducted by Sir Chris Wall as evidence that everything was eventually handled correctly. But this argument collapses the moment you examine it properly. A review conducted after the appointment was already made does not retroactively fix the process that was bypassed to make it. You cannot speed through a red light and then claim you obeyed traffic law because you stopped at the next junction. The damage was already done. The precedent was already set. And the attempt to use that review as a shield only confirmed that the government knew the original process was indefensible.
The Prime Minister had made an announcement that Mandelson was his nominee without caveats.
Labour MPs who spent years presenting Starmer as the clean, competent, steady alternative to Conservative chaos are now facing an uncomfortable truth. The man they backed, campaigned for, and defended in television studios across the country is now the man at the center of a security scandal involving doctored processes, dismissed civil servants, and documented proof of parliamentary deception. The silence from senior Labour figures who would normally be loudly defending their leader speaks volumes. When your own side stops showing up to fight your corner, the political ground is already shifting beneath your feet.
I think he's toast. He's either lied or he's incompetent, and either way, he's got to go.
And it's not looking rosy for him. I don't mind him, to be honest.
He'll hold on for dear life. Terrible, awful, boring man. No, nothing to say extra.
He should, but he won't. Only the fact that he's going to dig his heels in and refuse to go, I think. I don't think he can get out of the hole, but I don't think he's going to resign either.
The British public trusted Starmer with a historic parliamentary majority. They handed Labour a landslide not because the country was deeply in love with the party, but because they were exhausted by Conservative dysfunction and wanted someone who would simply tell them the truth and run the government with basic competence. That was the entire offer: honesty, stability, accountability. The Mandelson affair has not just damaged that offer, it has incinerated it. Every clip of Starmer standing in Parliament claiming the usual process was followed will now be played alongside that document proving it was not. That contrast does not fade. It compounds.
Even if we believe the unbelievable, it is no better. He appointed Mandelson despite knowing that he was a threat to our national security. He said due process was followed, having failed to follow that process himself, and he pressured the Foreign Office into signing off on this appointment. In 2022, the Prime Minister said, "I believe that if you're the leader, the buck stops with you." He said, "I will always stand up for my team, but I will also take responsibility for everything they do." That is what leadership is. How has he taken responsibility?
Political scandals in Britain follow a predictable pattern. First comes the denial. Then comes the partial admission dressed up as clarification. Then comes the apology carefully worded to avoid accepting actual responsibility. Starmer is now somewhere between the second and third stages, and his apology when it came was precisely as hollow as the public expected. He acknowledged a mistake without explaining what the mistake actually was. He expressed regret without identifying who should be held accountable. He performed contrition without delivering consequences. An apology that protects everyone responsible for the original error is not an apology at all. It is damage limitation wearing the costume of accountability.
His promises to control taxes, which he has broken. His promises not to raise borrowing, which he has broken. Promises to back business, protect our veterans, defend our farmers, and prioritize growth, all of which he has broken.
This moment is historic, not just for the scandal, but for what it reveals about the state of British democracy. When a prime minister is caught lying in Parliament with proof, and the only consequence is a hollow apology, it shows that the rules have been abandoned. The Mandelson affair is a marker of a long decline in accountability. Each scandal that passes without consequence only lowers the bar for the next.
We needed a government of honesty, integrity and accountability. So will the Prime Minister finally accept that the only way he can help to deliver that is to resign?
Does he believe himself to be gullible, incompetent, or both?
Calls for Starmer's resignation are growing, not just from opponents, but from within his own party. A prime minister who misled Parliament, prioritized political favors over national security, fired the civil servant who told him the truth, and responded to evidence of deception with a non-apology, cannot lead. The document is real. The advice was clear. The lie was told. Parliament knows the truth. Now, the only question is whether anyone in power will have the courage to act.
He looked like a guy that is running out of time as the leader of this country, and to be fair, I don't even think he's believing himself at this point. He certainly lost a lot of the backing from Labour MPs as well, but yeah, it's not looking good for Keir Starmer.
After all the lies, the cover-ups, and the manipulation, the question is simple. Can Keir Starmer still be trusted to lead this country, or is it time for him to step down and let someone else clean up the mess he's made?